Yo, what is up, everyone? We are back with another episode of the Glimmer Cast Gaming News Edition, and I'm joined by a beautiful, lovely panel full of awesome folks from around the internet and the gaming sphere. So I want to do a quick roundabout to introduce all of our guests. To my right is Game Boy Colored Q. What is up, my guy? How are you?
What is good? What is good? How are you doing? How are you doing? What's up?
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And we're also joined by first time on the channel ever, the lovely, beautiful birthday queen, AshSaidHi. How are you, Ash?
Hi, I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so stoked that you were able to join us today. And yeah, we are just, beyond blessed to have you join us. So thank you, especially on your birthday weekend. So
yes, thank you for the invite. I would not have wanted to miss this. This seems like a really fun show that we're going to have today with some incredible people.
Absolutely. And yeah, my amazing co-host, Kenton Tino, Retro Complex. How are you doing, my guy?
I'm doing good. Hello, everybody.
What up? What up?
Hey. And we're also joined by a friend of the channel and my lovely online fiance, Saggy Melonz. How are you doing, Sagster?
Yo, I'm great. Thank you for the invite. Lovely panel. I always say yes to coming here. You don't even have to ask. Just be like, show up and I'm here.
I love it. We've got a hot list of topics that I did my best to cover on the thumbnail, but yeah, we will get into it. And last but not least, another awesome person from the internet as well, Vito. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Raya? Excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here as well. It's going to be amazing. And this is Ken's first time having you on our gaming podcast as well.
Jesus,
I think he missed the last time you were here.
Yeah.
So we will get into it. So yeah, thank you to folks hopping in the chat as well. We're dual streaming on Twitch and YouTube. So just for folks' context, if I pop the chat open and I'm responding to folks on either platform and you don't see them in your chat respectively, I will do my best to show that chat on the screen and everyone will be on the same page, including questions. So if you have any questions about the topics that we're covering, definitely put them in the chat, and I will do my best to get to those as we get through the topics. And let's see, we are joined by Mattia Jakvik. Let's go. Good to see you, Mattia. And Stolly Games, what's up? What's up? Oh, yeah, we love seeing all of our usual suspects in the chat for sure. The music is doing it for me, yo. Thank you. I have to like change it out a little bit more frequently. Like, it's been a month since I had those songs, so I might switch it up a bit. But thank you. Those songs definitely go hard. Ritza Rapier says, music is bopping. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I think you're a new face on the channel, so thank you for stopping by. John Breaks Bad News. What's up, John? Hey, what's up, Rhea? What up, Vito?
Oh,
good to see you, John. John is a regular over on Vito's Monday Night Grift podcast, and he's hilarious.
Yes.
Definitely check him out. Slonko Bomb Gaming, what is up, Slonko? Yes, Slonko just finished her her first impressions playthrough of Potion Permit, and she just smashed 400 subs on YouTube. So she's doing big things. Definitely. Yes, we're joined by the lovely Ash. Definitely. Play Beat Delete. Hiya, good to see you, Play Beat Delete. Hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for coming through to visit. And Play Beat Delete saying what's up to everyone. And Retro Complex over in the chat as well. Thanks for greeting everyone, Ken. And Vito, we're joined by your VTuber avatar.
Hello. Whoa. I think I've
What?
I need one of those.
Vito
I'm here
Chan
for
is
it.
a very spunky teenage Tokyo schoolgirl. There's a lot to say. So,
Fair enough. I love it when people have something captivating on screen other than their avatars. So, yes.
yeah. I figured out how to put the background in, but
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready.
You've never seen Vito? You don't know Vito Chan? She's
No.
very
No.
popular.
First
He
time.
often streams with
First
her
time.
on his
I
channel.
used to
It's
stream
been
with her
great.
until everybody said, "Please stop streaming with that terrifying anime avatar." And I said, "Okay, fine."
It's just so cringe
That is
seeing,
so
like,
great.
hearing your voice.
But it's
It's
bro.
pretty cute. I like it.
good.
You have Gerard
I
as
love
your
it.
background. Oh my gosh.
I'm
Fair
testing the
enough.
backgrounds.
What's up,
Sorry.
Taladia? Good to see you. No worries. I'm a fan of VTubers, so I'm totally pro.
You know,
like,
I need
this
to get one of
happening.
those in Tingle. I need to get one of those in Tingle version.
That would be tight. Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you, folks, tuning in over on Twitch and YouTube. I really appreciate it. So also, just a heads up, I have some awesome Castlevania Symphony of the Night music playing. So if at any point it's a little too overwhelming, definitely let me know. I'm just obsessed with this track right now. So just let me know if it's too loud though. But yeah. Oh, and Ramblin' Man, what's up? Hey everybody, hope you're having a great Saturday. I hope you're having a great Saturday too, Ramblin' Man. Okay, cool. So we will get into it. First topic. Oh, and while I'm opening up the first topic, for folks who aren't aware, we are going to be covering the latest Bayonetta 3 news, as well as the fallout for G4 TV, amongst other stories that have occurred over the last week, like the release of Gotham Knights, the 30th anniversary of Mortal Kombat, and a bunch of other game release news, and trying to get our thoughts on that stuff. So yeah, Bayonetta, let's just get right into it. Ash, I know that you don't necessarily cover gaming news necessarily on the daily, but I just wanted to check in. Have you been following the story at all? Do you have any interesting thoughts or perspectives that you would like to share on it from the latest news that you know about it?
Yeah, you're right. I usually don't cover things like this. However, I do read a lot about things, mostly through Twitter. And I had been following this from since it launched because I thought it was a very interesting story, especially being that the initial video was very emotional. It was something I really love the taglines that she used, the one Bayonetta, really stuck in my mind. So it was clear that the voice actress, her name is Helena, right? She was really trying to reach out to the fans and emotionally connect with the fans to say hey, I was put in this really terrible spot. This is why you don't see me. This is why I'm not a part of the game that you all know and love. And at first it's okay, when you see all 4 videos, you're man, this is awful. Anybody can relate to that scenario, not getting paid what you're worth, and obviously having a very personal connection to the game, personal connection to the fans. And then when it just kept unraveling more and more, and then you're just hearing like, well, that's not entirely the whole story. You're kind of like, well, who's telling the truth? Obviously, they can't both be true, but obviously it's like, who is the one that's giving the full details of the story? Will we ever really know? I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah, that's pretty much like my assessment up until like this very second of the situation as well. Q, yeah, definitely want to hear your thoughts on this as well, since I don't really know like your whole, you know, personal scope of the situation.
Well, like you said before for Ash as well, usually I don't do this type of content on my channel, but I do like to keep up with everything going on in the nerdy space. So I have been keeping up with this specific topic. At first, like you said also, Ash, at first it seemed kind of cut and dry that someone was wronged and we need to champion behind them and stand behind these voice actors who are getting paid less to nothing. Because if you go back to other voice actors, we know criminally voice actors have not been paid what they're due as apart from their like movie star counterparts. These voice actors are just as memorable as these actors and they're not getting paid. So I know we were ready to champion behind them and stand up for them, but it's seeming like things are coming out like the whole truth was not told. So I had to kind of pull the reins back on a lot of my thoughts. Also, Rhea, you brought up a good point on one of your streams. You had that I didn't even think about at the moment in that blind like justice mode, but you brought up that there were other people that worked on the project as well. So just to boycott this project after all this time, these people put in these hours, this work, this hard work just to go and just champion behind one person, I think it owes those people to do a little more research and kind of get the full scope of the story, because stuff has been coming out about how much she was actually getting paid and maybe, but then she counters that and saying maybe some of those are doctored. So right now it's kind of up in the air. So I'm just going to keep doing my research and seeing how this plays out. But can I honestly say I'm just going to bag behind her 100%? I can't honestly say that at this point.
Absolutely. Like, I talk about this oftentimes in my stream as well, like to Q's point. And ultimately, I knew I was going to, you know, still pick up a copy of the game. In fact, like I pre-ordered a physical copy. I also purchased the re-release of the first Bayonetta game because it was exclusive in Japan when it was first released, as far as like it being on its own physical single cartridge outside of like it being packaged with Bayonetta 2. So I've been years and years long, you know, fan of Bayonetta. And although it's disheartening to the point that Ash and Q were mentioning about, you know, fair payment and workers' rights and things like that, I don't necessarily feel personally that I have to abstain from supporting this series entirely in order to still have those values. So I can still be pro, you know, workers' rights and still, you know, be a fan of Bayonetta the series because, like I said, like he referenced, the Bayonetta is more than just, you know, the voice actress behind the project. But yeah, I do want to get into the rest of the panel's thoughts on it. Ken, yeah, I want to hear your latest, you know, opinions on the topic for sure.
At the beginning, it's like I was saying in my Twitter, I am with her in the fact that VA people need to totally get paid better and they need to be respected. I got a bunch of people who works in the industry, and I got a lot of people who talk about the anime industry too. They're voice actor, and they get super, super underpaid. They get like crumbs. Like they don't get this. Sorry to remind you, this is what I was saying to somebody on Twitter. This is the voice that is going to be heard around the world, not only in United States and UK. No. This is going to be heard in Mexico, Puerto Rico, and all that stuff. So this actor should be paid like a normal actor, like a I don't know, Hollywood actor, because this games, even though there's a lot of people behind the game and the creation of the game, and I understand that, most of the people who were working in the game, they're already getting paid. They already were paid. Voice actors, normally, they get paid at the end when everybody else got paid. So, you know, it's unfair to me to see a voice actor who's dedicating in voice acting. I'm sorry, whoever makes videos or scripted video, we all know how hard it is to read from a script and try to memorize everything. It is painful.
Yeah.
Me as a Latino, it's really hard to do a voiceover for one of my videos because it takes me a while. So not seeing them getting paid the correct amount that they should deserve is wrong. Now, if she lied, it's gonna be sad because it's just gonna kill the whole thing with the voice actors. But I feel like it's good that they happen right now because that is showing, because this being screened by so many voice actors for years, and everybody been getting ignored constantly and never being made big news. Finally, somebody actually making it big news, and people are actually realizing, oh, guess what? Voice actors don't get paid correctly. So I don't know. I just feel like it's wrong what they're doing with her. If it's true, mind you, if it's true, because I'm in the same way. I'm putting myself in the way of should I believe her? But I need to know more information about this so I can continue, because this corporation, and we already know, the gaming corporation are the biggest liars. They can lie and make you believe whatever you want really easily. Look at EA.
It's in the game.
Yep.
Thank you, Kent. Yeah, I definitely want to get Saggy's thoughts as well. I know you've been covering this extensively over on your channel. Yeah, how are you feeling about the situation up till now?
So after hearing Platinum Games' response to everything, I have to say that neither Helena or the company is lying. There is a misunderstanding because both parties said that she was offered $4,000. Now the difference with Platinum's games is they said, no, we didn't offer her just $4,000 for the whole game. We offered her $4,000 per session. That is the key word there, per session. Now, when you look at Helena's videos, she had mentioned that she had reached out to the jerk, and I hate this guy. I think he's a jerk.
Hideki?
He's a jerk. I got blocked by him on Twitter. But when she mentioned she had to have a translator email him in Japanese, that to me says there was definitely a miscommunication. There was a language barrier where she misunderstood that the 4,000 she was offered wasn't just for the full game, it was per session. So I don't think she intentionally lied. I think she misunderstood what the offer was, and instead of getting clarification of what that offer was, she felt that she was lowballed. Now, what Ken was saying about voice actors getting paid like kind of crappy, that is true. I think the biggest important thing with the situation is that it did bring awareness to the fact that voice actors are underpaid. However, I don't agree, unfortunately, with Ken that they deserve pay like Hollywood actors, because Hollywood actors work in the entertainment industry. They take months upon years of shooting, so they deserve a lot more money.
I understand that, but a little bit more pay will not be bad, Saggy. A little bit more, a little bit more.
Well, I agree with that, because you're right. When it comes to video games, these companies are making billions of dollars off the gaming community, so they should be able to pay their voice actors a little bit more. But like I said, the work that it takes for voice actors, their work is a few days, maybe a week, maybe a month, depending on how much voice lines they need to record. But for Helena, like the first few Bayonetta games, she was doing 4 days of sessions, and it was 4 days of work, and she was done. So I mean, it is true they do need to be paid a little more, because the opportunities that leads to them, as they keep doing it. Like Helena, $4,000 for her first, like maybe like $2,000 for her first game. That makes sense. She's just getting into the role. It's the first game of the franchise. They don't know how much money that game's going to make. Second game, you see how much the first one made. Okay, you made enough money. You could pay them more. Third game, offer them more. As you're making more money, they should be offered more money. But as far as the situation, I don't think Helena lied. I think she just misunderstood the contract, what she was offered. Because again, that $4,000 was mentioned in both parties who said it. But the difference was $4,000 per session is different than $4,000 for the whole game. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as more information comes out, and as more counts as far as like previous like testimonials from voice actors about their pay range, that's essentially like where my brain was at. Like, okay, what is like a typical voice actor salary? And like to Ken's point, like typically a lot of voice actors are not paid what one may consider like a livable wage. So I think I understand his argument, and I totally empathize with it and align with it as well. I want to hear from Vito as well, because I know that you were covering this story on your channel. Links in the description. So please.
Yeah, I wanted to make a video about it. I haven't gotten around to it yet. This Helena lady is nuts. This whole situation is not. I'm sorry. Look, first of all, Jason Schreier reported on this. Very reliable guy, reports for Bloomberg. He can't screw around. So all the information he's putting out there, I'm sure, has been double or triple checked, because Bloomberg is a financial publication and stockholders rely on it to know what they're buying and what they're not buying. So when Jason Schreier says, I've seen the paperwork, they offered her $4K a session across 4 to 5 sessions, that's $20,000 in the bank for less than a week of work. Okay, you know, obviously, yes, there is a problem with voice actors being underpaid. We've seen voice actors get paid $200, $300 a session. Mm-hmm. But if you're getting $4,000 for a day of work, and you're going to turn around and say that you've been somehow slighted, you're living in fantasy land as far as voice acting goes. And let's be clear, Bayonetta is a voice that is not incredibly distinct. This isn't like Tom Kenny doing SpongeBob, where he's the only guy who could ever do it. Frankly, any lady with a British voice is going to be able to do a pretty spot-on Bayonetta without me being able to tell the difference. So it sounds like she turned down this initial offer of 5 sessions, and they said, okay, well, what she was asking for was insane. I mean, according to the documentation, she wanted 6 figures. Mm-hmm. Let's be clear, that's $100,000 minimum, plus royalties on top of the 6 figures. For 4 or 5 days of work.
That was the moment that I was like, should I believe her? Because if they saying that she was, that's too much. That 100,000, that's way beyond.
Let's be clear. I've never heard anything from this woman. I don't know if I can trust her as I can throw her. But Jason Schreier has been working as a journalist for 10 plus years and one of the most reputable people in the space. So if I got to trust anybody, and he says he's looked at the paperwork, he's looked at the emails, he said this is the conversation that was had. She was asking for 6 figures plus royalties for a week of work. I'm sorry, that's just crazy. Yes, you've contributed to a very popular character, but unfortunately, your contribution is not something that can't be replicated by another actress. You're not that essential to the property. And no, any voice actor who sneezes at $20,000 for a week of work is frankly insane to me.
So can I chime in? Can I chime in on
that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's starting to seem like to me like y'all, we've heard this multiple times in the chat so far, that it just kind of opened the eyes of the people to the voice actors' plight. It's not really about this specific one situation. It kind of just was like a lot of people are attaching to it to bring more awareness to voice actors in general. But to go back to what Vito was saying, I don't really agree with the point of the fact of saying that voice actors shouldn't make more to the standards of media stars, like movie stars and stuff like that. Maybe not the same extent as like Robert Downey Jr. or anything like that. But if we're going by the age that we're living in, as far as this media age, voice actors are arguably in the same realm as movie stars. Maybe they do a week of work, but the impact that they have on our culture, like us, just in this chat, are incredible. Like, some voice actors are irrefutably the voice that we hear in our head when we have our inner monologue for these characters. It's them. So do I think they definitely should be paid more than what they're paying? I think they should be paid 2 times more, because the impact they're having culturally goes beyond their appearance. So me personally, I think they should get paid a higher wage.
Even the new voice actor for Bayonetta, the new one that they hired, yeah. She even concurred with Helena. She even said, yes, Helena's correct. We should get paid more. So you have the voice actor who already got paid for that paper saying the same thing as the one that is complaining. But
Jennifer Hale said she should get paid more.
Yes. Said she should get paid more. I don't necessarily know if I subscribe to the idea of just because somebody is doing X amount of days of work means that they are being greedy or over asking. Like, we don't know. I mean, at least I don't know what it is like being a voice actor, or what those skills are entailed, or how many years she's trained as an actor, and all of the skills she's accumulated through her lifetime of experiences working on other, jobs or anything like that. It would be hard to quantify that is not necessarily what she's worth. Like, to say, like, because this is what she's asking, she's quote crazy or out of her mind for asking that, because, you know, she's doing X amount of work for X amount of days. You don't know what other training was involved to get her to the skill level where she is. And just to like write it off and be like, oh, well, any woman with a British accent can take over that role. It's like, I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, because, you know, there could be certain other aspects of the emotion or any of the other details that she's doing to portray that character that other people might not be able to replicate. So it's, you know, if that's what she's asking, that's what her value is based on all of the work that she's done, the credibility that she's built, and, you know, bringing this character to life in the way that she did. That's what it is. But I do think, you know, SAG, you brought up some really great points about the mistranslation or miscommunication and barrier between languages, because I know personally from working in the gaming industry and dealing with language barrier and things like that, that there's a whole culture in how you're supposed to communicate between, you know, different companies and things like that, especially when it comes with business. So I definitely think that what you said is probably exactly what happened.
Yeah, but
I'd say in terms of what value she's adding to the game, it was announced that she was being removed. Did you see anybody cancel their pre-order and say, well, I can't imagine anyone else playing Bayonetta?
Because no one knew why, Vito. That's
well,
why.
Why does it matter why? We're claiming that she adds such value to the game, but she can be taken off it and nobody cares.
Well, I know at least two or three. I know at least 2 or 3 people in personally close to me that are boycotting the game. So
But after, were they boycotting when they
like? I have this opinion, so everybody must agree, kind of like way. Like, I don't know. Maybe if she was replaced and I heard somebody else, I might not like it as much. I don't know. I can't make that generalized statement.
Okay, so they lost a $60 sale because you didn't like.
Wait. So hold on, Vito.
No, Vito. Game, it sounds like.
Vito, hold on. Here's the thing. So in the beginning, when she was announced to be replaced, obviously no one knew why. Like, for all we know, she could have not wanted to return for her own personal reasons, or maybe, you know, we don't know what happened. So obviously, if we don't know, people are just going to accept that, okay, she's leaving. But, and also just a little thing, because I kind of agree with a little bit of everyone's point. Like, Vito does make a good point that, like, yeah, I mean, Jennifer Hale, if you hear her voice as Bayonetta, it's really, she's doing an actual good job, and she's not even native British accent like this. She's actually doing pretty good, decent as a replacement. No, I heard her voice. No. Like, trust me. I get what you're gonna say. It's not exactly like, you could tell there's a difference, but as far as like her doing it, it's not that bad. So Vito's right. Like, we've seen many times, voice actors have been replaced by people who have basically mimicked their voice, which is a kind of gray area for me, because like when Helena was like, "Well, I created that voice is something that I
that's the part that pissed me off about her."
Yeah, that's but it's like, that's what voice acting is acting. Like, how, you know, people do like parodies to voice actors, like famous dead people or people who exist, and like no one bats an eye. Like, oh, are we just gonna say that you own the copyrights to your voice? Like, it's a very weird thing, but like everyone makes a good point. I think, like I said, at the end of the day, when it comes to the situation, like, yeah, I'm chopping it up to a misunderstanding. I would hope that they would be able to resolve it, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. The game is coming out. They replaced the actress. That it is what it is. So like, if people still want to boycott, that's your own personal decision to make, but that's just where I land on it. You know, I think that everyone has good points, because like, it is a good thing to talk about. I'm glad that it brought awareness to this issue. So
I also wanted to shout out Firewater in the chat. What's up, my guy? I don't 100% agree with a lot of the comments that I highlighted. I just wanted to acknowledge that, you know, you are making points that do deserve acknowledgement. So essentially, Firewater, to your point about her exposing, you know, her contract negotiations, or her interpretation of her contract negotiations, and her perceived treatment, you know, things like that. I don't necessarily think that, me personally, my take is that she struck where the iron was hot, as far as like, you know, the search engine optimization of Bayonetta 3, being able to capitalize on those clicks for being able to expose her side of the story, as far as her the pay that she was offered, or her understanding of the pay that she was offered at the time, because I'm assuming this is like years later, after she was potentially going to be on schedule to record her voice. So on one hand, I am still acknowledging that there was a communication error, to Saggy's point, but at the same time, I will say that, you know, she saw the opportunity to have her voice most amplified by the internet, and she took it. And I don't necessarily think that she screwed her career. I think that was a good business move on her part to better secure her future in voice acting with potential future work. So if anything, like wherever we each stand on the situation, I'm sure this voice actress will land on her feet and she will continue to work, which is ultimately a happy ending, at least like in my book.
You think she's gonna land on her feet and keep getting work?
Yeah, she will. She will. This is not the first. This is not the first game or act or voice acting that she does. She had done a bunch. So it doesn't matter how much this is gonna affect her. Somebody else is gonna go like, you know what? You were ballsy. I want you in my team. Because it's true, she was ballsy.
I mean, she might get. It's gonna affect how much work she gets. A lot of people aren't
Vito,
gonna work with somebody.
have you not? Do you not know who Hideki Kamiya is? Have you not seen that?
He's nuts.
Dude, right. So I guarantee you, a lot of people in the industry, especially in Japan companies outside of that, they don't like him, bro. They definitely don't like him. So any company probably praise her for kind of like going at him the way she did, because like that's usually what happens. Like they see people going at people they don't like because they publicly can't do it because it's bad for business. They would probably be like, all right, you want work? You had something to say about Hideki? Let's go. I'll sign you on.
No. Businessmen do not care about the only reason a businessman would like Hideki or dislike Hideki, whatever the hell, is if he somehow lost the money. But that's the only thing that these businessmen operate on is dollars. If Hideki's making money, they love him. And let's be clear, Bayonetta's actress went out and said, don't give your money to Nintendo. Boycott a Nintendo product. She'll never work for any Nintendo-related product again. I can't imagine that any other video game person is going to be like, gosh, let's get that lady in our game where if she's mad, she tells people to boycott us. Like,
you
that's
don't think
not...
Sony and Microsoft wouldn't be like, yo, she's telling people to stop buying Nintendo games. Let's get her on our team. Like, come on.
Most likely.
That's not how they think.
Well, ultimately, like, I think...
she's a liability.
True. Like, let's say, like, you know, she kind of went scorched earth on, you know, her connections in the video game industry to the points that some people were making in the chat. Not only has she had other experiences working as an actress, she has no interest in returning to video game or at least like voice acting at this time. So, you know, who's to say, you know, she won't, you know, go on to, you know, do additional, you know, theater performances or other type of, you know, on-screen acting. Exactly. You know, I think that all of us now are familiar with her name and, you know, her ability to character act. And I think that's like the biggest, you know, push for her resume to additional outlets. So I think this actually did behoove her, although it did go scorched earth on her previous employer. Q, did you want to add something?
No, just really listen to what everybody has to say. It's sounding good to me. It's not, like I said, I can see where everybody's coming from. Like I said, I'm just happy that it's bringing a light to these voice actors that need to get paid. That's my main takeaway from it. A lot of the time we get so wrapped up in these minute situations, one situation, and forget the bigger picture. So I'm just here listening. It's just happy that y'all got good opinions, man.
Absolutely. And Ash, I just wanted to make sure that we got all of your perspective on this topic before we transitioned into the next one. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on or add to the conversation before we shift gears?
Maybe this whole thing is an act. Maybe this is her, you know, exercising her ability to act on camera. I don't know. Who knows?
Oh, but do I think that she could get blackballed or something like that? No, I think because Nintendo is notoriously kind of self. Like, they don't really diddly-dally with everybody else, so I don't see anybody else having an issue with hiring Bayonetta's voice actor. And Bayonetta's a pretty...
I think she will be blacklisted from all voice acting.
I mean, I don't expect her to, you know, go and make her name as, like, another voice actress for another well-known character tomorrow. And, Firewater, to your point, I do appreciate you being a part of the conversation. You're bringing up some amazing points. I personally just feel like, this is the biggest, you know, career boost for her career, even more so than Bayonetta was. So she's gonna, you know, get a bag at the end of the day. That's my prediction.
My question is, why is Firewater here, bro? You're in Aruba. Why the hell are you on YouTube?
That is a little sus. You should be out like on the beach enjoying life.
Enjoying life.
Is Aruba that boring right now for you? Like, what is going
Sitting
on,
there
my
drinking
dude?
a pina colada, watching us.
Right, by the pool in a room, like, bro.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'll say that, this is going to open other doors. I can't define what those doors are at this moment, but there's a lot of information coming out every day about this topic, so I'm sure we're going to continue to learn more about it. Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you're enjoying your vacation and you have time to come hang out with us.
Right, go swim and take some pictures. Go put some suntan oil on your woman or something.
I'm sure he's gonna do all of that and then some. But yes, this was a good warm up to get us get the brain cells all fired up for the next topic, because it's another fiery one that I wanted to get into. So G4, G4. I'm sure we all have heard of that name. We've all might have seen that channel on cable back when a lot of us were still subscribed to cable providers. Now all of a sudden they're on YouTube and they're using all these different YouTube personalities. I've talked about this topic on my podcast before in the last few months, and within the span of those few months, the channel reestablished itself online, then collapsed. So this is a full circle that we're covering it. I want to get into Ash, your thoughts on G4. What were your initial impressions when you heard that G4 was coming back, and have you been following its ups and downs up until now?
Yeah, when it first came back, I was really excited. I always loved the channel, and I know a lot of people who work on it now currently who found out that they lost their job through that tweet, so that was extremely unfortunate. But I was following them on Twitch and checking out all the things that they did on their social media and was super excited. And I just think it's really odd, that it just all of a sudden is like, oh, well, it wasn't getting enough attention, so we're going to shut it down now. It's like they didn't even get a full year, so it's really unfortunate. And I was hoping for more of, more content from them. So I'll have to do more to find out why, other than the fact that the CEO was like, oh, they're not making enough money. But I guess, as some people pointed out earlier, money talks, and if they're not making money, then they're not profitable. They're not gonna, sustain the business. So it's really sad. It's really sad, especially knowing people who lost their job because of this announcement.
Absolutely. I just want to, make space to say I appreciate you bringing up that fact. There were, hardworking, talented people who were producing the content for this channel. Whether we want to have a different opinion on the quality of that content, there were still talented individuals who lost their livelihood because of that. So I do want to make space to just acknowledge that and establish empathy for that as a foundation. So thank you for saying that, Ash. But yeah, Q, I want to hear your thoughts on, G4 coming back, and then in less than a year, unfortunately it has to, close up shop. What were your thoughts on, the whole situation?
So G4 definitely has a special place in my heart. Been watching it ever since it was conceived. Remember running home from school to turn on Attack of the Show and X-Play and stuff like that, getting ratings. Some of how I perform my content is from how they perform their content back in the day. So it definitely has a special place in my heart. I remember when they had the anniversary episode and they had announced that G4 was coming back. I was super excited to see Kevin Pereira and everybody talk about it. I was hugely excited when it first dropped. I think I watched first 2 weeks, kind of fell off a little bit, but the content still felt fresh, still felt enjoyable to me. I had kept up with it, seeing that it wasn't doing as well as projected, but I understood why, because we're in a different age. We have more media outlets that provide what G4 was providing at the time. So I kind of, not said I knew exactly what was going to happen, but I kind of saw the writing in the sands that it wasn't as popular as it once was. But to see how it just the rug just got pulled from under all these people working on this project, it was kind of sad to see. When I was listening to the spaces with all of the producers and Kevin Pereira and some of the other hosts on the show, and even right now they can't even go back into the studio and get any of their belongings. It's like they're banned from going into the studio, so that's kind of disheartening to hear. And I love G4. once again, I get really attached to characters and stuff and hosts that I grew up watching. And some of these guys I've been watching since I was 15, 14 years old. So it's really disheartening to hear. Hopefully most of them land back on their feet and find other endeavors that help them tremendously. But right now it's kind of sad to see that this took a turn like this. My only thing that I wish, and I want to get y'all thoughts when we get further into it, is do you think they would have been better doing their own thing as a collective, like with Patreon and YouTube, or do you think that is just a dead cause?
I actually have two thoughts, but to answer your question, or your immediate question right now, I feel like the model of MCNs, like multi-channel networks, like similar to like Channel Awesome and stuff like that, I think a time has passed for those things to essentially be helpful for a lot of creators, because some do bubble up in popularity and are kind of driving the most traffic to the website, if not to the rest of the creators. And it's only through like, collabs and, shares from the bigger network or the bigger creator within that one network that the other ships rise. So I think that kind of creates like a disproportionate sort of hierarchy, so to speak, within like ideas like, multi-channel networks. So that's kind of one reason why I'm a little critical of it, because I've seen the fallout of how like the hierarchy within builds like that can oftentimes create favoritism, and other creators are left cast aside while still putting out a lot of like really hard work and not getting paid for what they're doing towards the overall collective. So I'm not sure if like that was part of the infrastructure in G4 necessarily, as like it was a network on YouTube, but I do want to get Ken, your thoughts on the G4 fallout as well.
Two things: freaking Frost and Adam Sessler.
I knew somebody was gonna bring Frost.
Those were the freaking nails in the coffin. Those were the first one who put the nails in the coffin. The show was doomed from the beginning. We already, like you said before, we already had a bunch of personality on YouTube that do the same thing, the same news, the same reviews, everything the same. There was nothing that they had that stand out. If they would have bring back maybe Cold Monkeys, maybe that would have helped them a little bit, because everybody used to love that show. But there was nothing that they were bringing new to the plate. Everything was all reviews, and I know I do all reviews, but still, for a company who promote gaming, who they're like the number one where you got to come for gaming, they were doing all reviews, and it was not, at least for me, it was not entertaining. Mind you, they have the completionists and they have the Scott that was, and not even that saved them. So that to show you that people were not interested. Plus, they attacked their own audience. That is the worst mistake you can do. Attack your own audience, with Adam Sessler attacking people on Twitter and saying a bunch of crap about them. And Frost, the rant. That was the moment to part way from Frost. But you know what they did? They fired other people, but Frost's still there because they were trying to prove a point. Don't know what point they were trying to prove, but they were trying to prove a point to everybody. And that was the nail on the coffin. That was what killed them little by little. Because when I heard about G4, I was hyped. Like you, I was hyped. I heard G4. I was like, holy shit, I grew up with that. I used to go to my friend's house to watch that. My friend used to record in the VHS. He used to record episodes so I can watch them, because back then I didn't have cable TV in my area. So I used to go to my friend's house to watch those videos, and I was hyped. But when she opened her mouth, the very first thing that she opened her mouth, and Adam Sandler doing like that monkey who has the things in the hand clapping, I was like, nah, it's done. I'm done. I'm out.
Got it. Really quick before I get to the rest of the panel to get their thoughts, Ash, did you want to add anything to Retro Complex's point, or did you want to add to the point that you were talking about earlier?
No, not really. I'm just kind of listening.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And Saggy, I know you've been covering the news extensively. What are your thoughts on the latest? It appears to be like the end of the road for the channel.
Listen, I just want to remind everyone, the reason why G4 was originally successful and beloved was because it was the first. It was the first gaming specific channel that we had before the internet, before YouTube, so that we had our gaming reviews. You know, before we used to get our gaming reviews from magazines. Now we had like an MTV equivalent to gaming that we can watch, and they had a lot of good shows that I wish if they wanted to revive it. There were so many good shows. Portal was a good show. They had a lot of fun shows that they should have revived, but and I mean, granted, X-Play was okay, but like there was a lot of shows that they should have probably like tried to bring back that might have helped them with the relaunch. But the way they did it, first of all, G4 had no business trying to come back. I'm sorry. In this day and age, like everyone has already found their new outlet of gaming news. Like they found YouTube content creators who are gamers. They're not running off of scripts. They are real in person, like they're personal people. You can relate to them because they're regular people. And a lot of people have gotten used to finding their gaming content fill on YouTube. And that's the way they wanted to do it. So for G4 to try to come into this element that they've been gone for so long, and it's like, even if they still were going on TV, if they weren't canceled and sold out and then start playing cheaters and cops all the time, like even if they were still going, eventually would have died down because YouTube became a thing. YouTube literally killed that channel. So they had no business to try to come back. Like that's how I felt. Like, and then like everyone said, Frost and Adam Sessler, they did no favors for that either. So like at the end of the day, like I'm not sad. I mean, it sucks people lost their jobs, but like they had no business hiring people when they really had no plan. Like you're trying to compete with YouTubers who have been doing this since y'all been gone. Ever since YouTubers and gaming content became a thing, like y'all had too much competition and nobody was gonna stop watching, you know, these two lovely people on camera above me who do gaming content. They weren't going to stop watching them just to start watching G4. And G4 brought nothing new. Like you guys said, there was nothing new that they brought. They didn't even revitalize the big shows like Code Monkeys. I remember Code Monkeys. That would have been the best opportunity. And they didn't do it, bro.
I guess one thing I do want to try and like get back into this is like, you know, like empathy for the, you know, people who are impacted to Ash's point. Like, I know a lot of different YouTubers that I've met in the past year or so who see YouTube as like, you know, their foundation and then potential like, you know, launch pad into places like G4 or other more, you know, quote unquote legitimate, you know, market leading platforms like IGN or even having G4 take off to additional opportunities. So this was a big opportunity for a lot of people that, you know, delivered a lot of, you know, their time and resources and emotional and physical well-being into this project just to like have it, you know, crumble. And admittedly, you know, I'm sorry?
I was gonna say it's not the end though. I think when people like, because I recently got laid off, and yeah, it sucks. It sucks getting laid off when you had a job you really like and you are getting all this money and you're like, yeah, I finally found a career and now it's gone. So I know how that feels personally as somebody who just recently got laid off myself. But you have to look on the bright side. You know, I have this on my resume now, and it's not my fault that I lost this job. I didn't do anything wrong. The company just went under, but you can still use that as your resume. The cameramen now have that as a resume. Like, yeah, I did this for this company. You know, the people who work behind the scenes, I can add this to my resume now. And it is a credible resume. And it's not like I said, they didn't lose their job because they messed up. So I think that even though it is sad that they lost their job, I would hope that G4 offered a difference package. That's the least they could have freaking done. But I do feel like when it comes to this, like jobs do, you know, sometimes people get laid off and it's unfortunate, but it doesn't mean it's the end. They still add this to their resume to get future work for a better company, actually. So like I said, where one door closes, another door opens. So I always try to stay optimistic. Like, yeah, it's sad, but again, there is potential for the future for these people. It's not like their lives are over. They can come out of this even stronger and better than ever, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with you. The point that I wanted to add too, and going back to what Q was saying earlier about, I think a lot of us are aligning to like, you know, the talent was there but the execution like faltered. A lot of people in the chat brought it up as well, that you have all of this popular internet talent and you're not allowing them to do what they're known for. And Vito, I mentioned this on your channel as well. This is a segue to get your take on the latest news as well. Since you're a very talented YouTube personality, and if G4 were to hire you at the beginning and try to, you know, sanitize your content just to, you know, say, oh, look, we have Vito on our channel, like, how would you feel?
Well, is that what you think happened? You think they sanitized the content too much?
Yeah, I think so.
I totally agree.
Come on,
that.
Guillermo Olivia, man.
Well, I don't know.
Come
I'm
on,
not
Olivia.
too familiar with these people, so I don't know how.
I totally agree with that.
Like who did they sanitize?
It was just the show in general.
Yeah, it
very
was just very
subdued.
like generic corporate marketing. Like, look at these like familiar faces talking about a highly searchable term or game title.
Well, they ran into a lot of problems where like they would hire guys and then the guys would get canceled or something. Who was that guy they brought on originally, and then it turned out he was trying to force his girlfriend to have an abortion or something, and then they had to get rid of him.
I forgot the name.
Return. I'm
But
gonna look it up real quick.
Yeah,
Before
Glimmer.
Returns, the official
Geeked Up,
teaser
yeah.
trailer, and it had this guy in. No, this is not it. Gus something. Gus. He's like a popular YouTube guy. Gus Johnson.
Okay.
So yeah, when it started off, they had Gus Johnson, who's like a funny guy, and he makes funny like skits and whatever. And then right away, he got accused of trying to force his girlfriend to have an abortion. So they had to get rid of him. But then they got guys like, I don't know, is the completionist like an edgy guy?
The
Like
completionist
my
is
understanding of these guys is that they're like, pretty rudimentary. Like, hey, let's play video games and have fun.
I think
But
what
you
was
have to
missing
remember,
is
Vito.
like the personality of like what makes like Gerard like a unique rewatchable figure on the internet, like him, like Ked Icarus and Nitro Rad, a bunch of these other like folks who genuinely like love video games. They love talking about it. You can feel their passion in the topics that they're talking about, including you, Vito. I can feel the passion in topics that you talk about when you make your
Yeah, but I'm an
standalone
old
videos.
man, and that's part of the problem.
You're not that old.
No, I'm ancient. And I'm gonna say this: the completionist has been doing this for 8 years. He's ancient as well. So here's the problem:
I'm older than Vito.
you're trying to make a network for gamers, right? Which is already a stupid idea, because it used to be everybody who played video games, there wasn't that many video games, so there was kind of a common language. Everybody played Zelda, everybody played Mario. Now one guy might be a gamer, he might play completely different games that I have never played. You might be a gamer, you only play Fortnite every day. Like gamer, it's no longer an identity that you can be like, we're gonna make a TV network for gamers. It's like, well, there's too much stuff. Like that doesn't mean anything. It's only gonna appeal to 10% of the audience at any point in time. And then you bring in guys like Adam Sessler, who are, grandpas, and I go, what kid who wakes up in the morning, all he cares about is Fortnite and Among Us, goes to the X-Plates panel, and he sees Adam Sessler is reviewing Jade Empire on the original Xbox. And I'm like, what the hell is this network? Literally, they were doing throwback reviews of like Jade Empire, Star Fox Adventures from the GameCube, and I'm like, did I travel back in time to 2002? Like, how are you going to get this young demographic of guys 15 to 25 who have probably never played half these games you're talking about, and they definitely don't want to watch their grandpa talk about them?
I
would challenge that though too, because like I stream games that are 20 plus years old, and I still have a booming young person audience because I'm able to like be my unhinged bubbly self on camera, albeit maybe slightly hyperbolic just for entertainment value, but essentially I'm able to just be unfiltered on my own terms. And I'm Ash, I'm sure you can empathize with this as well. Your audience is there to hear you, not necessarily the hear you talk about the history of a game. They just want to see you enjoying it and engage with them while you're enjoying it, right? Or am I off base?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is exclusively what I focus on, is retro games and games that are like probably twice my age, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that's I think people like connecting through that nostalgia and that joy. Now, were there better ways that they could have executed parts of that show? I mean, a lot of the shows, yeah, sure. I'm sure. But I think that that's what was exciting about it, was the potential. And like you were saying before, like, oh, G4 is back. What could possibly happen in the future where if they got newer creators and they got like, people who are relevant now to do new shows? Like I'm sure they were building up to that. But they had to lay the foundation of what they already had and then kind of build the audience and then lead up to newer experimental things. So I don't know.
Well, the one thing you guys had to remember, that the original show was super the way that they were promoting the original show, and for those of you who remember, Olivia Munn, I keep on saying it because she was one of the main characters in the original series. And come on, whoever didn't watch the show for Olivia Munn, you're lying, because I used to watch it for her too. You're lying to yourself. I'm sorry, but it's true.
Let me be clear.
Well, that's what
I'm not saying. Shut up, Saggy. I'm not saying that there's not an audience for retro content. Clearly there is. But is there enough of an audience for retro gaming or like throwback nostalgia, whatever, to sustain a television network?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, but that's
not.
that could be a part. It doesn't have to be the whole entire focus. It's just like a segment of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if
I wouldn't waste any time on the retro game. If I was trying to have a TV network, I would be like, what is the most popular video game right now? Fortnite, League of Legends. I would only talk about like top 20 hits, because whatever audience you're going to get talking about, let's talk about Assassin's Creed 2, is like, it's a waste of your time and resources. And you can look at the view counts. Nobody cared.
Well, not necessarily, Vito, because like I said, the issue that G4 had is like you could still have those type of. It's just they didn't have enough variety like they did back in the day. They only focused on. There was only a couple of shows that they revitalized, and then they added a couple new ones that people just didn't care about, like their little like Dungeons and Dragons like role play type show that I was just like, what the hell is this? Like, bring back those shows like Portal that touched on PC games and things like that. Like, they didn't have variety. But I will say this too before I forget my point that I was going to make, because I saw a lot of people mentioning Frost. The thing with Frost was her message, the way what her message was telling wasn't like bad. It's just the way it was presented and the lack of self-awareness of like the fact that she's like, oh, well, Olivia Munn and Morgan Webb did not exist to be sexual eye candy for you. I'm like, yes, they did. They 100% did. Like, I don't know, like, what, and the fact that she said, I was a fan of G4, I'm like, I was a fan too, and I very vaguely remember the over-sexualization of both of those women specifically Olivia Munn. I actually made a video showing many clips from her time on Attack of the Show where she was over-sexualized. Like, they had her in provocative clothing. They had the guy that her co-host grabbing up on her, right? The banana. Like, there was a lot of sexually suggestive things. So it's like, if she wanted to make the message that women in gaming weren't treated the same or they were treated differently, she could have done that in a much better, tasteful and more understanding way. But the way she went on her rant was like very like she was like wearing goggles, like she was blinded by what she was saying. And I'm like, lady, I understood what you were trying to say, but bringing up those two women who were exactly what you are currently now, which is eye candy, because like Frost isn't an ugly woman, you know, but it's like right. And a lot of the women they had on G4 currently they were so desperate, y'all. They brought in Amaranth. Okay, like they were so desperate. They
poor Amaranth now, well, yeah. Poor her right now with what's happening, but.
Right, but nothing against Amaranth, but when they brought her in, it told me exactly the opposite of what Frost's message was. They were just looking for women who were attractive and gamers that they could exploit, and that's how I took it, because that's what Olivia Munn and Morgan Webb were. They were exploited, and again, I got it because they were there to break the stigma that women could be gamers and also be attractive, because that was a stigma back in the day. For I know Rhea and Ash, I don't know if you remember, if you guys were gamers back in the day when online gaming became a thing. How many times were y'all in a gaming lobby and you talked to the guy to be like, oh, you're probably fat and ugly because you're playing Call of Duty. I got that all the time on SOCOM too, bro. They'd hear me like, it was bad, man. I'm telling you.
If I just wanted to like kind of like just add like maybe like a small qualifier to, you know, kind of like legitimize some of what what my perception of her intent was. I do think that she was focusing too much on past mistakes and like, you know, past failings of like how women were objectified by the network. I don't think it was like for comparison to what her role as a host on that network was at that time. But I would have really appreciated was her more making it known, you know, her qualifications to host the show and not necessarily just be eye candy or complete 180 from the eye candy model that worked for G4 back in the day when it was a completely different, you know, social climate and things were a little bit more acceptable back then. Oh, go ahead, Q.
No, I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but I just want to get your thoughts. Like I said, I'm trying to understand everybody's point. So to bring up Frost and her quote unquote rant. So at what point she was directly talking to the viewers. I've seen her rant. She was directly talking to the viewers. She knows her credentials. I would assume that she believes herself to be attractive. If you know her, if most people know her credentials, why would she feel the need to address the viewers? Because she knows what she's done. She knows who she is. Okay, yeah, let me know.
So this all stemmed from when she did a review on a game. I forgot which game it was, but she got there was a lot of hate comments involving what she said about her review on a game. And she basically, like, I was with her when she was like, listen, I was reading off the same script that Adam and all these other guys get. I was reading off the same script. Now, why is it when I read the script that I was given to read to do this review, I got crapped on because I'm a female? And I understood that because she was basically saying, hey, I was reading the script. This was a review that I was giving. I'm just the host. I'm just reading off a script. Why are y'all giving me this hard time? I was with her there. So it wasn't when she started off there, that was her strong point. Like, you know, I'm reading off a script. Why y'all give me heat for doing my job? But if a man read this, you wouldn't give them as much heat. I was like, yeah, you're right. That does happen, right? But that's when she went off on this whole tangent, like Rhea said, you know, the sins of the past. But at the same time, I still say, like, bringing in Amaranth, if you looked at all the women that they hired, they weren't women who looked like us. Like, they were like supermodels, you know, bringing in Amaranth, being a beautiful woman who is a gamer.
No, Saggy, you're beautiful.
I'm you know what I'm saying? Listen, I appreciate that, but I ain't no supermodel, okay? I'm very self-aware. I ain't no supermodel. I like my thickness, okay? Okay, I like my thickness. I like my bubble tea. Fair enough. I love all the women here are beautiful. Well, no, we are beautiful, but I'm saying, like, they were selling this whole thing. Like I said, originally Olivia Munn, Morgan Webb, all the women on G4, they were there to break the stigma that women could be gamers and still be attractive, which I appreciated because, like I said, I've always gotten crapped on for being a female back in the day. I had to be unattractive, or I had to be a lesbian, all the awful things people could say about a woman who dared play a game like SOCOM 2 or Call of Duty. We would go back and play these little girly games, right? Like, we'll play The Sims. That's more for women. That was a stigma. And I appreciate that G4 tried to break that stigma, but to ignore that's what they were there for. Like, I didn't sit there and say, oh, well, they were being sexually exploited. In a sense, yeah, but at the same time, they wanted to say, hey, gaming girls can be sexy and beautiful and still be gamers like the rest of us. And I appreciated that message. But when she ignored that and made it seem like that didn't happen, it's like, no, it did happen.
Yeah. Well, to your point, well, thank you for answering that. It made a lot of sense. But to your point, for me personally, Olivia Munn was fine. I was like, yeah, she's hot, but they definitely did break that stigma. Never once, for me personally, I could say I never questioned their gamer credibility. So never. They were hot, but I've never questioned, like, oh, they don't play games for real. They're just here because I believe they were real, true gamers. So if my opinion counts, then they broke the stigma very well to me personally.
The idea of having two hot girls playing video games, it was unique and was like surprises, because like Saggy said, back then it was really weird to see a woman or a girl playing video games. Everybody will criticize it. I know that because I see it.
But and that's due to society making the stigma itself.
Well, remember guys, things that used to be nerdy, like, you know, if you liked anime, if you liked cartoons, you were a nerd, you were a loser. Now it's like the trending thing. Like, if you don't like anime, you're weird. Like, how have you not seen Naruto? Like, how, you know, it's weird how things have evolved and changed. But that's what I mean. Like, to Rhea's point, things have changed. So for her to go on the rants in the beginning, it made sense. But then when she went off the rails, it's like, no, this is not how society is. It's not as bad as it used to be. Women gamers are not as discriminated as they once were. Like, yeah, there's still some discrimination, but those are from kids. Who cares what a little bunch of kids whose balls haven't dropped say about women? Like, bro, like, why are you even online right now? Like, you know your mom's going to smack you if she ever heard you talking like that, right? So, like, that was my thing. And I think with G4, like I said, it's sad, but you know, they had their glory days back in the early 2000s when they were on top, when they were the first, when they were really doing things. And now we have YouTube, and we have YouTubers like you guys who You know, do what you love, and it shows in what you do. Like I can tell from Ash's room that girl plays games. Like she plays games. She enjoys it. She loves it. That's passion, and that's what viewers want to see is that passion. And G4 did not deliver that passion anymore. So that's how I really feel. Like at the end of the day, I mean, it sucks, but I'd rather watch Ash or Game Boy Colored play games on YouTube than watch G4.
And just to kind of add to that, yeah, like Bresson, to your point, I wanted to highlight this, not because I agree with it, but because I want to, close off this topic with our individual responses for this, because I think ultimately this opened up the door for a conversation around like how important is it for one to have a platform base or like where their identity is necessarily something that is a highlight of the content that they produce. And in my opinion, I'm someone who personally I gravitate more towards creators of color, specifically other Black and multi-ethnic creators, femme and women presenting creators, specifically like Ash and Saggy and others that I network with. So that's my personal take, and I feel like a lot of other creators, and not even just creators, but other audience members also have that personal preference because of the lack of representation on these various platforms, like on cable or even on the internet, where they felt that they could be their, authentic selves and not just, be an avatar or some sort of, like faceless person who has to leave their personal information at the door in order to exist happily on the internet. So yeah, Ash, I wanted to get your take on that too. Like in your experience on the internet and, gaming and things like that, is there anything that you wanted to add to, your personal experience that makes your platform unique to your, like, related to your identity, or do you tend to not so much have that be a focus on your content personally?
I think that's a really good question. I feel like existing on the internet, period, as the person that I am, a woman and a woman of color, is me making my statement. And a lot of times, like, I do experience some of the things that we discussed. People coming to my channel and not addressing me as a person playing video games, but as a woman playing video games in the way that they address me, instead of talking about the subject at hand, whatever I'm talking about or whatever is going on in the game. It's like, oh, you look really pretty today. Or, oh, tell me how old you are, or, I want to marry you because of all the things that you're interested in, and like playing games. Like, I get some really weird comments, and those are not the things that I focus on. If I ever experience those things, my focus is on, bringing the conversation back to the game or whatever the topic is at hand. And, dealing with that is not always easy, but you have to learn how to adapt and refocus the conversation. So it's a skill that I've had to hone. And then in, relationship to what we're talking about with G4 specifically, I don't know what had went on behind the scenes to make Frosk or any of the women feel what they felt and have to express the things that they expressed outwardly. But my biggest problem was, attacking her based on, oh, it got really emotional. The fact that she, was so emotional on camera, it always tends to turn back to, like those softer things like, oh, she's being emotional, or why does she have to express this opinion, or, why can't it focus on whatever the content is? It's like, well, she's saying this clearly for a reason. We don't know all of the story that goes back to why she has such a strong opinion about this, or how she was treated, or why they picked certain characters to portray how they portray themselves on camera. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of deeper things that need to be spoken about. But even the fact of the conversation, the way that we're having it now, like the focus was on, oh, Olivia Munn was brought on because of the way that she looked, rather than whatever context she could bring to, the games that she spoke on and things like that. Like, I think that that's a very telling sign of these are still things that need to be addressed. And how do we normalize speaking about these things as people, rather than, oh, well, I'm watching this. I mean, obviously, you know, like people are gonna watch what they are attracted to, but you know, I hope that we can, you know, start to focus on things that maybe bring these voices to not have to be, okay, we're just breaking it down to how she looks or how she reacts to something, you know. So
sadly,
I just want to say
one thing more. Sadly, we are in the internet. We are personalities that are out there putting up personas, and no matter what, man, girl, woman, boy, child, we're gonna get attacked. So you have to build.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about how the completionist looked, or Adam Sessler, or like, you know what I'm saying?
They
like
actually attacked the guys too. The guys got attacked too.
I'm not saying that they don't. I'm saying that it's a disproportionate amount that we're going to talk about how attractive X person is, but we're going to talk about the game content for this person instead. Like it's just clear that that's still something that we need to address.
We have to address. And many people have addressed it, but once again, sadly, I hate to say it like that, but the internet. Saggy Melonz gets attacked every single day. And
doesn't matter if it's happening on the internet. That's not something that should be like
Kitty.
Yes, Kitty.
Oh, Kitty? Where?
Can I address? I know. I'm sorry. Ash is bringing up some good points that I want to address, but I know we're trying to move forward.
No. We're I'm happy to keep it on this. I did want to say, Ash, to your point, I do think that, you know, there were some hasty assumptions made about Olivia Munn's presence on the channel just being eye candy. Yes, you know, she may very well be an attractive woman, subjectively. Or even objectively, let's say that either way. But her presence on the channel, should not be reduced down to that. That's an opinion on someone else that shouldn't be made into the objective truth for their existence or being present there. So yeah, I just wanted to add that. And then Q, what did you want to say?
Oh yeah, like to Ash's point, like I said once before, yes, I thought she was attractive, but never once was her status in the show ever in question to me personally. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and just it's obviously we're all on the internet. We know how the internet is. People get to say their true selves behind these screens. A lot of people are still in these mindsets that have been programmed. Especially, I don't know to speak for the other men on the panel, but it was way worse when we were growing up, dealing with the nerd community and stuff like that. We were like the bearers. So when women came into the fold, it was way worse than it is, I would say, now. And it's some people that still hold those ideals and still speak on those ideals. So yeah, it's still prevalent, but that's why you have to have people like us to speak up and champion against that, because it is prevalent. We still have it now. Like if a girl comes into a Call of Duty lobby, they're gonna still say the same stuff they were saying in 2012. You know what I'm saying? So it's still very prevalent.
I mean, I will say this because Ken did use me as an example. Like, I mean, I do drama on my channel. Sometimes I talk games or whatever interests me, but I do a lot of drama on my channel. But it's right. He's right. I do get attacked a lot, and a lot of the comments are usually misogynistic comments. But I choose to fight back. That's how I handle the internet, where I push back and I monetize that type of energy. Whereas, like, I understand for other women, like, it's not, how do I say this? Not everyone is mentally equipped to deal with that kind of toxicity on a regular basis actively like I can. Like I've embraced it where that's my personal choice, but I understand why there's other people, especially women in the gaming community or content creators in general. Like it's hard for women, and the reason why is because no matter what, we can't change the fact that we're women and we're looked at as women, and we're gonna always be, like Ash said, she's just doing a stream. She just wants to talk about games. She just wants to talk about what she wants to talk about. Her being female has nothing to do with it. Her being an attractive female has nothing to do with it. For when I started YouTube, like you notice I'm not on cam. I have a cam. Rhea sent me a cam. I don't use it often because sometimes I just want to talk without the distraction of me having to feel like I have to look a certain way. How do I look on camera? Do I look pretty enough? Or am I going to get all my simps to donate money? Like, I don't want that notion. So I usually don't do cam just because I want to focus on the topic. So I get it from what Ken say. Like, I do get that and I do appreciate, but like, it also doesn't make it right. Like, just because the thing is, no. The interest,
I never said make it right. I never said make it right or okay. But still, you are exposing yourself to the internet. It doesn't matter why you are exposing yourself. You're putting yourself out there. We see it on Hollywood. We see it on every single media. You are exposing yourself. You know the risk that you're taking by exposing yourself in the internet. So
right,
it's
but
up
it has
to
to
you.
change. It has to change. That's the thing.
Yeah, just saying that it's happening on the internet doesn't mean like, oh, it's happening on the internet. So am I going to be okay with it happening that way? Or am I going to say something and be like, hey, let me set the standard in how this conversation is going to happen. You're going to respect me. You're going to abide by the rules. And unless you abide by the rules, you will not be a part of this conversation. So that's the point that we have to make, is that just because it happens doesn't mean that I'm going to allow it to happen. And when it does happen, just like how I am going to have a reaction of being on the internet, you are going to have a reaction for the way that you behave on the internet. There are repercussions for that.
And you are 100% true. But the way that she did it was attacking her whole audience. Even she attacked everybody who was in the panel. And if you see the video, she attacked the whole chat. So she didn't attack one person. She alienated her whole chat.
But Ken, your example, like going back to Frost.
Yeah, I'm just putting the example, but it's similar.
Yes, it is. But this is a very, very specific example where this person was being backed by their employer to basically endorse their own personal opinions, and you're using that as an example for why we should just accept it because of the pushback that audience.
No, I'm not saying nobody had to accept nothing. Nobody had to accept nothing. But the fact is that if you are in the internet, sadly, and I hate to say it, even I'm a Latino who my accent is really heavy. You can hear my accent. I get attacked constantly, like constantly. But I dealt with it. I get thick skin. I ignore those who don't like me. I continue doing my shit. Because why? At the end of the day, they don't pay my bills. They don't do nothing for me. I don't care whatever they say. I continue walking forward. Because this is the internet. At the end of the day, I just go block you and done. And done with you.
Right, but Ken, at some point, though, it's like we are still, like, I think people forget. I get it's the internet, but for Christ's sakes, we're still people behind the screen. Yeah. We still like, there's a moment, like, even I break sometimes. You know, when I pop off and I start swearing, I start saying words on my YouTube channel I shouldn't be saying, because people, I'm telling you, sometimes you just get fed up and you're just like, fuck that! I'm saying something because y'all motherfuckers. So I'm about to pop off already. Listen to me.
No,
like,
and
that's totally fine. This is a very
you have seen me defending you, Saggy. You know that.
Now
right,
I don't want to.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want to try to alienate. I'm hearing everybody's points and everything, but I think
except for Vito. Vito's very quiet.
I know, right? I was trying to say,
I don't know what's going on.
But no, I'm pretty sure everybody has experienced, especially like the top three are people of color up here. So I know we experienced even more than just on a looks level, but also on our race level. So I know for me personally, I do a lot of TikTok. So I go live on TikTok as well, and I get a lot of comments. You'll be surprised how many comments I get on my appearance, and even things that are, I don't even want to say on here. So I definitely understand exactly what y'all are going through. How I handle it, me personally, I just kind of try to handle everything with just like spin it, make a joke out of it, and I keep it pushing. Not saying everybody has to do it like that, because some of this stuff is very rude and disrespectful. But I just understand where y'all are coming from, because like I said, it's prevalent, and it's even more prevalent in women because they try to diminish y'all value. So I understand completely what everybody's saying. I really just brought up the whole topic because I just want to understand where y'all were coming from. But yeah, I think everybody in this panel has one time or another had somebody say something, some crazy outlandish shit. So I already know. I just want to know. I understand exactly what y'all saying.
Yeah, totally. And just to wrap up this topic, ultimately I think we covered G4, some of our criticisms around some of the content execution, some of the paths that they were taking, as far as who they were targeting, who our personal, understanding of, the IP that they were taking over versus the audience that may or may not even exist anymore for them to be successful with, and then some of the challenges of being an on-screen personality from a marginalized community, and then having the ability to enforce boundaries without isolating or even alienating your audience, which is a challenge that even I, in my limited time being a content creator in the last year, learning how to vocalize and establish boundaries with my audience while still, creating a welcoming, safe space for everyone. It's a balancing act, and I'm sure a lot of our folks here on the panel are also learning how to do that on their respective platforms too. But yeah, I think that covers it for the GeForce stuff. We can get into some of the other topics that I had in mind as well. One of them being the Gotham Knights game. I'm not sure if anyone else has been following this, but it's kind of been somewhat of a debacle as far as the release schedule. I'm not much of a modern gamer myself either, similar to Ash, but I was interested in the Gotham Knights game because you could play as some of the younger wards of Batman following his passing, and basically chart your own path as one of those respective characters, like Batgirl, Red Hood, Robin, Nightwing, etc. Yeah, definitely. And apart from the initial issues with the frame rate and some of the the length of the game being a little bit on the shorter side as well for the value that you're paying, the rollout for that game has definitely been a little up in the air, to say the least. I just wanted to quickly get Vito, I don't know if you've got a chance to cover this on your channel or had interest in this story, but what are your thoughts on this this whole roadmap?
It just looks very disappointing. I don't even know what you can say. It just looks like a trash game.
It's disappointing because it had so much promise, right?
Yeah, it could have been good. I could see having a good time with that. But clearly what we got was it looks very, very bad. So it's a disappointment. You hate to see the Batman franchise, which has, famously been such a great video game franchise. You hate to see it reduced to that. But I guess that's the way it goes, sadly.
Yeah, there's not too much on this since the game just came out, and it's just been it kind of just, fell on its face out the door. Ken, did you have interest in picking up this game or checking it out?
Nah, that's the game that's running at 30 FPS, right?
Yes, and it's kind of odd because one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is because of the perception of a performance mode being present in a lot of games, especially when it comes to frame rate issues and just the quality of play that one can expect from this type of release. And I know for myself, I play a lot of arcade games, and if the frame rate is anything below what it's supposed to be, it's virtually unplayable. So yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
That's what I cannot get. I really don't understand why this company keep on dropping 30 FPS. I understand for the Switch. I totally understand for the Switch because the Switch is not a powerful system. But for consoles, dropping a game like that in 30 FPS makes zero sense, and more with the performance that they have. These consoles are really, really high end right now. They're like super like computers. So having a game that runs in 30 FPS, I used to be the type of person that used to say, oh, no, 30 FPS doesn't bother me. 30 FPS doesn't bother me. But I went back and played Dark Souls, Prepare to Die edition that is running at 30 FPS. And Jesus Christ, it's just awful. I don't know why they're doing that. I really don't understand why they're doing that. That you just released it at 60 and expecting to charge, I think it's $60 right now, $70. How much is the price?
Pretty much. Yep.
Because it's only on next gen consoles.
Exactly. Trying to charge that amount of money for a game that's running at 30 FPS is crazy. I will understand a 2D game running at 30 FPS. I got a bunch of games that run like that. But a 3D game that it has motion blur and has all this stuff that is so... I don't know if you guys get sick with motion blur, but if I run in 30 FPS with motion blur, it gets me really sick because I cannot, distinguish the game. I don't know if you guys get me.
Yeah, some of really weird. Some of the layers, such as the foreground and the middle ground where the character is at, and the background. It's hard to discern the three of them from one another sometimes. But yeah, I just also wanted to tie this into the announcement for the Mortal Kombat Onslaught mobile game coming out, which is another popular arcade game franchise. It's really near and dear to my heart. I don't know if y'all are like, the biggest fans of Mortal Kombat. I know, Ken, you mentioned you're not necessarily a MK fan. You're more into Soul Calibur and Guilty Gear, which I also love as well. Those are great. But Ash, I do want to get your take too, because for the style of games that you play, do you necessarily pick up on frame rate issues or inconsistencies across ports that you're hypersensitive to, or are you not a big stickler for that stuff?
Yeah, I do not care. I think that there's diminishing returns in between 30 and 60 frames per second. Like, I personally can't tell the difference. But then again, I'm playing games like Morrowind, you know what I'm saying? So for me, I just feel like it's like sometimes I like the fact that games are a little bit shorter, like I really loved Stray, I could play the game through in 12 hours and then get into something else next. So when I hear about, people saying like, oh, these games are shorter and we're spending like $60 on it, or like, frame rate issues or visual issues. For me, games are about like the storytelling and like, like the actual gameplay itself. So I just feel like at a particular time, like if I can't see the difference between 30 and 60 frames per second, I'm like, it really is not a deal breaker for me. I just, honestly, I'm going to be the outlier here. I don't care. I don't care.
Actually, I actually empathize with you because Nier Automata released on Switch recently, and it was, the frame rate was chopped in half from 60 frames on the PS4 to 30 on the Nintendo Switch. Damn. And although it's a slightly higher resolution at 1080 than it was on the PS4 at around like 900 or so, I looked at the two and all I saw was, maybe like slightly smoother motion on the PS4, but overall the game was still very highly playable on Switch in handheld mode, which is my preferred method of playing any type of game. So yeah, that's I'm kind of like in the same boat as you, is like, as long as the game's playable, I'm there for the story. I'm there because, to the point I was saying about, the Batman gameplay, being able to play as multiple different characters that we didn't really get to experience before in past games, and semi open world environment. All that was appealing to me. As far as like how much it pushes the technology of, my gaming console or my PC, I don't necessarily care too much about that stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to.
But it looks like it dips below 30. Am I crazy?
True. Oh, sorry, Ash, did you want to say something?
It just feels like a pissing contest to me. Like, to put it in, I for lack of a better term, it's just like, who has more power? Like, is the game fun? Am I enjoying the story? Am I going to remember my emotions that I felt when I immersed myself in the world of the game? Like, who the hell cares? Like, my eye, like the human eye can only see a certain amount when it comes to like all of these tech things that people are talking about. It's like, who the hell cares? Sorry.
Well,
no.
I don't know about that.
I don't care. I mean, that's just me. That's
true.
Q, what were you about to say?
I thought Vito had something to say.
Well, some people like to argue, they're like, well, the human eye can't even see a frame rate that fast, but that is untrue. I don't know if there's something else you're referring to there. But
I think like the distinction between the two is very, very minimal, to the point where it may not impact the gameplay experience too much.
Right, when you can download Dark Souls and play in both modes, playing on 60 frame and playing on 30 frame, and you will see.
You know what it's awful. Like to me? It's like when you go to the grocery store and then your mom tells you to get the generic brand version versus like
version. That's a great allegory.
Analogy.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. It's like it's all in our head. It's like, oh my God, like if it doesn't have, all of the 60 frames or whatever, it's like it's not as good as like, well, can you really tell? Like, are you really like, how do you know like that generic version isn't made by the person that makes like the name brand version? They just calling it something different. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. So first, before I get into my points, to go back to the 60 frames and 30 frames. So I have a PS5. I've been playing Elden Ring. And that's running at 60 FPS, runs smooth and stuff like that. So I'm at work, and one of my coworkers, he has a Steam Deck, and he's he took the performance mode down on his Elden Ring and he's playing it on 30. It's a clearly visible difference in the frame, in the how the game moves, the actual outlining of some of the movement, the motion blur. It looks completely different.
It's like a lag.
Yes, it is a visible difference. It's definitely a visible difference for games that are trying to be optimized for 60 frames per second, as far as like being chopped in half. But to go into the points, so everybody was asking why did they like the game at 30 FPS? It was because the game is open world and you have multiplayer capabilities. You can have somebody pop in and pop out, but the other character is not tethered to you like other multiplayer games. Your other friend can be in the whole next side of the map by themselves doing their own thing. So I guess they were trying to optimize the frame rate with that, because it's going to be like two CPUs pulling off each other to some extent.
Okay.
So I think, but in that, I think that's an issue, because I was like, if they were going to compromise the frame rate, which could compromise people's thought of the game, I would have said maybe patch in the co-op and kind of base it off of a single player campaign to begin with. I would have thought that would have been better to do, but that's seeming, because I haven't heard anybody bring that up, but that is the reason why they locked it that's the reason they gave. I feel like that's not optimized. I feel like that's an issue, especially if you're going to only put it out on the next gen consoles. I think that was pretty like poorly done, because another game that's an open world game that had multiplayer components come after, one of my favorite games of the last 10 years, Ghost of Tsushima, running 60 frames per second. Amazing. And game. It's an open world game. And they implemented multiplayer aspect after the fact. So I wish they would have did that. But now, as far as was I excited for Gotham Knights? Hell yeah, I was excited for Gotham Knights. All the Bat family gets to play as Nightwing, my guy. But after seeing gameplay, it looked sluggish from the initial launch. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be 30 FPS. I could tell, because they have to slow down the gameplay of the game, because it's going to give a lot of that motion blur and that effect, as Retro was talking about, where you get that motion sickness. So you have to kind of slow down your gameplay to accommodate the frame rate. So yeah, the gameplay looks sluggish. I was watching some cutscenes. I was not pleased with what I saw personally. I would definitely get it when it becomes cheaper or free. But as far as first day buy, I personally don't think that they optimized it enough for a $60 purchase. And
it's funny because a game like Elden Ring, that is not a multiplayer. Somebody created a multiplayer and it runs amazing. You can actually put it at 100 something FPS, and the two per character can be whatever part of the map they can want.
Yeah,
and that was a modder.
Yeah, I'm sorry not to cut you off, Retro, but Ash, like you were saying, you didn't really understand like the frame rate and stuff like that. It's not every game is dependent on. Some games can run on 30 FPS and look amazing. It's not just because it's 30 FPS that is going to look crappy. It's just how the developers optimize the game to run on that frame rate. So some games can look great on 30 FPS. Like you wouldn't even like how they're trying to optimize the game, but some games will look crappy because of what they're implementing into the game. It causes the CPU to run harder, which causes a whole plethora of other. But before I give y'all back the mic, I love all video games. I play all fighting games, everything. I love all of them. So some of them look good, some of them look crappy. As long as they, like you said, are fun, I'll play them. But this game I was kind of excited for, and it kind of let me down. So.
Okay. Now that now you're teaching me. Yeah. Now you're teaching me. Now I understand.
Oh, this has been an awesome combo, and thank you, Q, for putting us onto some game about the nature of this game, and hopefully the updates that get pushed for it. I'm assuming throughout the the next like couple months or so, it'll get to a point where it is playable. I did want to shout out Cyberpunk 2077, which also had a super rough coming out of the gate experience. I'm personally not in the market for that style of gameplay necessarily, because it just seemed a little out of my element as far as like the the style of game that it was at the time, especially it being like so demanding hardware wise, which I didn't have access to. A couple years later, almost, the game is, channeling in about like 1 million players logging on online playing it. So it's now, a booming success. It just took a minute to, get to that point. So
Edge Runners, the Netflix really brought it back.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was gonna say.
Oh yeah, the animated series. Yeah, that was like a resurgence in popularity for it as well.
Freaking anime saved the series.
Y'all telling me voice actors don't matter.
Yeah.
For real, yeah. Also, I just wanted to point out that what I was mentioning earlier about Mortal Kombat Onslaught coming out as a mobile game on its 30th anniversary of the IP Mortal Kombat coming out. I know not necessarily everyone may be a Mortal Kombat fan, but I wanted to get y'all's thoughts around, like, let's say you are a super big fan of this legacy IP. You see that, Silent Hill 2 is getting an HD remake. And that's amazing. Like, like claps for Silent Hill. Vito, I want to hear your thoughts on that. But let's say, like, your other favorite, IP is getting a mobile game, and you're just like, WTF? Like, why are some legacy IPs being prioritized over others? So, Vito, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, one of my favorite legacy IPs did get a mobile game, and I liked it, and now it's been canceled. I was playing the Final Fantasy VII First Soldier Fortnite clone. It was actually fun. And fun. For some reason, did you try it?
I haven't. This is my first time hearing about it.
I know. They didn't even advertise the goddamn thing.
No, they did. They had that initial, I believe, E3
I didn't even know
trailer.
about it.
Bro, a PUBG clone where you're running around firing magic spells and riding on a chocobo. Right? They had to nerf the chocobos at the very beginning, though, because everyone was just killing each other with chocobos. Murdered chickens running around the map. But they didn't even try to put it on PC or console. They didn't give it any amount of love. They're just like, they stuck it on mobile. And, man, it could have been good. It's pretty good. I'm sad. Other than that, as far as I don't know, man. We're just living in this era of just constantly remaking everything. Like, did anybody actually buy that Last of Us remake?
No, I have it. Because Last of Us is like one of the best games of all time. So,
isn't the original one of the best games of all time?
Yeah, they both look really good. I get it, but it's like, why not play the most optimized version? So that's how
it just seems like a waste of talent and creativity. It's like, why make anything new when we can just take a game that already exists? I mean, yeah, Silent Hills 2 is kind of clunky or whatever, but I don't know. I think that's almost part of the charm. I would just rather, and let's be clear, I'm no scab. Okay, I'm not running back to Konami after they ditch Kojima and the greatest Silent Hill the greatest horror game of all time. It would have been Silent Hills. They cancel it, and then 12 years later, they realize the pachinko money's running out, and they come crawling back to the gamers, and they go, "Oh, we can't make as much from pachinko anymore. Do you guys want like 10 Silent Hill games?" No, you're not getting anything from me. This is. I mean, some people are falling for it.
Are you saying that you're boycotting Silent Hill 2, Vito?
He's gonna get it. He's definitely getting it.
But I ain't no scab. I'll play Death Stranding again. I'm all.
Well, you had to accept. The Silent Hill F looks awesome. It's a Japanese horror story, basically. It looks dope.
To Devin on Nerdcast's point, like, yeah, I mean, like, I can acknowledge, like, some of the bad things that a lot of these game companies have done, or maybe like unsavory things, I should say. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm still a fan of the IPs that they own. Suikoden is definitely up there on the list. And yeah, Square Enix, they've released like 20 RPGs or games this year alone. So yeah, they definitely have access to my wallet ongoing. But I do want to get Ash's take. So like, you being a primarily retro gamer, do you personally prefer to just play the originals, or do you ever get excited about the remakes or remasters and check them out?
So let me tell you, when Live a Live was announced, I lost my little mind because, first of all, that was a game that was never translated officially, and now they brought it over, remastered it, remade it, and now there's a whole new audience that can experience this amazing game with an amazing story. And I think that I do personally get excited for them, especially if acquiring the actual physical copy of the game is impossible due to what the retro game market, collecting for the retro game market has turned into with companies like Wata introducing the things that they've done with making games really highly inaccessible from making them super expensive, and like eBay and all that kind of stuff. So it is exciting because then it becomes attainable. I don't have to spend $600, $700, $800 on a game that eventually will maybe become unplayable through disc rot or whatever. And exposing newer people to games that they might not have had another way to find out about if it wasn't for like a re-release or something like that. So re-releases are not exclusively for people who already experienced the game in their first iteration. They're also for, making it accessible to a newer audience who may have never heard of it any other way. So I think it is awesome, and I think it is exciting, and anything to get people into playing some of these classics and then eventually branching off into whatever the newer versions are is a really great thing, in my opinion. So
absolutely. And Saggy, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Saggy.
Yeah. I wanted to get your thoughts because I know you're a huge Resident Evil fan. As far as like the remakes go, and I know you have a PS5, are you interested in a lot of these next-gen remakes of the games, or do you just prefer to go back and play the original or older remastered versions?
I like the remakes because they usually do things different from they tell the story a little bit differently. Like Resident Evil 2 remake, I liked it because it still followed the story, but they changed things up a little bit, and I actually really did enjoy that. It's like a same story with different elements. Like Nemesis, like a funny story, right? There was a rumor that the Nemesis in the Resident Evil 3 remake was able to go into safe rooms. I was like, nah, they wouldn't do that. My friend told me this. My friend who's also Resident Evil. So I'm playing this, right? And the first time I see Nemesis, I run into a safe house and I'm laughing. I'm like, ha, you can't come in here. Yo, this dude looked at me. He took one big step in that room and I literally shit my pants. And he killed me too, because I was like, oh my God, this man's really came in this safe house. So it was really cool, the things that they did in the remakes, that they changed it up. Like Resident Evil 2 too, Mr. X was probably the most scariest, slow-ass moving villain in that game, man. Like, you hear that sound, you're like, dude, you're like, oh crap, where he coming from? You don't see him, and then he just creeps on. Like, I love what they're doing with the remakes. I will say, though, there was something I saw on the Twatas that hurt my heart about the Resident Evil 4 remake.
The dog.
The dog, right?
Man.
The dog.
Yeah, the dog. So I don't know,
yeah.
for those of you who don't know, in Resident Evil 4 at some point, you come across a dog stuck with their legs stuck in a bear trap, which, for the record, I don't remember if that, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember if that is significant. I think the dog does come back and help you if you help the dog, I think.
In the ogre fight.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. I wasn't sure. But if you help the dog, right, you see the dog. So in Resident Evil 4 Remake, when you get to that spot, the dog is dead. The dog is still there, but now it's dead. And I was like, Capcom, why would you do that?
It sucks.
That was like a cool part of that. That was a cool part of that game. Where,
I hope it's a bait and switch.
I hope so.
I'm hoping that's a different dog.
Yes, I hope it's
Well,
a bait and switch.
I'm more hoping that that's like when you come back, if you choose not to help the dog, if the dog died. But like that dog looked like they'd been dead for a while. So I'm kind of like, dang, that's a hard hit. Why would you kill the dog, bro? What do we run for I Am Legend, yo? The dogs matter.
The dog died in that too. Can I piggyback off Saggy for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So Resident Evil, one of my favorite franchises as well. Just to talk about remakes and remasters, I don't have a problem with either. I would prefer that you just remaster like retro games, like y'all, Ash and Ray are big fans of, like the retro arcade games, and remakes should be like for the Xbox 360 and up, maybe Xbox. I feel like to just talk about some of my favorites. Remakes, Final Fantasy 7. I put in the chat, I think the Final Fantasy 7 remakes, a lot of people hate me for this, but I think the remake is the best version. I think the quality of life things that we have added to video games up until this point just makes the game feel a lot smoother, a lot better. Some of the quality of life, I enjoy it. But to go back to Resident Evil 4 and 5 are like my favorites of all time. Those are my favorites. 4, it could be interchangeable any day. But I went back and played 4 because I was getting ready for the remake, and just the way Resident Evil 2 has spoiled me with the aiming system. The remake of Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4 feels so much in the past that I'm just like, dude, like I don't know. Can I go ahead and just go to the new game? Because I know they're gonna add the level that I'm used to in quality of the like mechanics now, not the story, not the game, not the graphics, but just how sluggishly certain games move now. That we've been accustomed to more smoother transitions, more optimized gaming experiences, I guess. That they don't take away my love and my nostalgia for the game, but I don't know if y'all have experienced this. I was playing Siphon Filter on stream. If for anybody that knows about the original Siphon Filter, man, it feels like you're running in water. Like, I'm like, but in my mind as a kid, having these images of the game, it was like the best game ever of life. And now you're playing and you're like, dude, like, what the hell?
Now you play and you go, oh man, that Siphon Filter game kind of sucks, right?
Like, I'm like, whoa, bro, I don't know, man. So
sorry, I at least have a friend who is obsessed with Siphon Filter, so
and
it's
I love
always
this
great when we can all get together and say Siphon Filter was Metal Gear Solid ripoff trash.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah.
Really quick, I also wanted to, Ash, I wanted to ask you this question because I'm really curious. So Ken and I think Vito, we may have talked about this on a previous episode of one of the podcasts. So Chrono Cross, that was remastered recently, I believe this year, or remade, and or no, sorry, remastered. And it's like the original game, but some changes were made. And some of those changes were not necessarily quality of life changes in some people's opinions. It was more just, writing for being like subjectively unacceptable in this day and age changed in order for it to be released currently. So I wanted to get your thoughts on like when a game is, released onto modern platforms and it is made accessible, that's wonderful. But when you playing it, being familiar with the previous version of, or the original version of the game, seeing like these changes in like, pivotal points of dialogue, or even like some, parts, being missing or changed that you remember very well, how do you personally feel when that happens? Do you think that, I'll let you speak.
Something like that, I think it's interesting. I know Chrono Cross. I actually have the original version, but I haven't really played it as much as like Chrono Trigger. So I don't know specifically the story parts that you're talking about, but if I were to play a game that had integral parts of the story changed because maybe some of those things might not be as acceptable today, I don't really personally have as big of a problem with that, because then to me it comes down to localization. Like, for example, there were things in A Link Between Worlds that were localized and changed for the American market because the way that the text was in the Japanese version would have been incredibly offensive over here in America. Do I have a problem with them not making that word for word change on over? No, because our cultures are completely different and culture changes over time. So if they could make that reassessment and be like, hey, if we have this dialogue in here now, it's going to really piss some people off. Maybe we should readjust it to, make it fit more comfortably with today's society. I don't see that as a big problem.
Are you cool with doing that to a movie or a book?
I don't know.
If you re-release a movie on DVD and they like cut out.
I think I don't know, because that's a different form of storytelling. You know what I'm saying? So like obviously a book, like something that might have been like let's take like Huckleberry Finn for example, like those, like that time period. Like obviously if they took those books now and then adapted them and changed it because maybe some of the language was offensive and things like that, like no, that's a completely different story there. Like you're reading those to understand history, whereas these video games is like a form of entertainment. It's not like we're not taking that and looking at it and being like, oh, I'm gonna learn about like America's past through this video game. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the question, though, is that a lot of people, they'll swear up and down, video games are art on the same level as movies and books, and you can tell deep and complex stories. And then I go, well, then why are people so okay with changing them up? I think that if something is an important historical work of art, that it should be preserved in its original form, so that people who are experiencing for the first time can understand the context in which it's created. So I'm opposed to any sort of changes to the content of a video game. I reported, I think a year ago, that Street Fighter 2 had changed took out Fei Long's flag of Taiwan because that offends Chinese people, and now he has a Chinese flag instead.
But those things were happening when games were being developed before, period. Now I feel like, maybe it didn't happen as often, but I'm sure that, like, for example, Beer Tapper and Root Beer Tapper, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like those things have been happening. We're just now more privy to it because we have the ability of social media to document these things and call them out as they're happening in real time. So I don't necessarily know if like saying like, oh, well, I mean, I agree with you in the sense that, the art thing, like video games can be considered
as a secondhand form that people don't think that they matter and they don't need to be
no.
preserved.
I 100% agree with you. I definitely, and I see your point there in terms of, if I change it, am I changing the art? Like, that is definitely something that I would wrestle with internally too. Like, if they change it, are they changing, like, certain things that are important to call out and things like that? 100% agree with you. But I don't know, like, I just feel like maybe books and movies are different in the sense that they're recording time, whereas games, I feel like sometimes are constantly, like, we're always
Updating.
interacting with them.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Q.
So I agree with both points. But where I do disagree, Vito, with your point is that I think the reason that they do change video games in general is because a lot of the times we're supposed to almost see ourselves in the characters, and sometimes those characters do questionable things that could imprint, especially if they're aiming for children or teenagers, their mindset. So saying say you're the main character did something that was acceptable back in the day. I guess in their mindset of how they're creating these games is that they can make an imprintation or make an imprint on somebody's mind and make them have certain ideologies or certain thoughts. In a book, usually you're just following a character's journey, so you can make the assumption like, this is morally wrong, this is morally unjust. But 9 times out of 10, they want you to empathize with the character that you're playing in a video game. They want you to feel like you're actually embodying this character in most instances, where it can kind of.
I don't know if I ever felt that way. Do you feel like you're the character when you play a video game?
I definitely do. I ain't gonna lie. I definitely
depending on the story. Yeah,
I definitely do.
I'm trying to think if I ever really get into it that way.
Like in Grandia, I was so involved into the game. Like, I got involved into the game that I cried at the end. That's how involved I was in the game. I love Grandia.
Yeah.
As Ghost of Tsushima,
yes.
I felt like I was him the whole time, like going through his whole journey. Like, that joke was crazy.
Yeah, fair enough.
I feel like that's a reason why, especially nowadays with more indie developers and like, different companies now making more characters look more representational of the people that are playing them. It's because they want you to connect on that level with them and feel like you are living in the story that, maybe you couldn't be a part of in your real life because it's fantastic or whatever. But I mean, I think it is definitely an interesting conversation to have of, if I change it, because the older games are still accessible the way that they were. If you find a physical copy of Chrono Cross, you'll still have access to the way that it was originally written. So it's not like we're erasing it, just like with a book. Like, if they change, like, I feel like if a book is changed, that's more of a like, that's more like a cardinal sin. Like, don't change the context of something that was historically written that way. But I don't know. Now you've given me something to think about.
Yeah, well, ultimately, I mean, another part of the problem is that there is no clear author of a video game. It's a collaborative work, so you can't really go to the writer and be like, "Hey, are you okay with this?" And it's like, "This man, it's not my fucking call. I don't know.
Right.
Not my game." Yeah. Whereas a book or a movie has a very clear director or author who can be like, "Don't fucking change that."
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of like these modern remakes, although they do have the quality of life features added to them, some of the points we were making are like, sometimes there are, dialogue changes, and sometimes there are like, localization changes as well that need to happen. And then some, modern dialogue that needs to be touched up a bit as well, just for like, you know, the audience.
Sometimes they go too far though. Did you see the changes they made to Resident Evil 4 VR? I was like, come on now.
Oh, Saggy, you I'm not sure if you came back or not, but you're big into VR and Resident Evil. So did you get a chance to play that?
I think she's out for a bit.
Okay,
I have Resident Evil 7 on VR, so and that's like
Resident Evil 4, the VR version, he's not allowed to flirt with his female handler Hunnigan anymore. He used to be like, "Hey, what are you doing later?" And now it's like, no. Leon, of course, would never say that. I'm like, Leon would of course say that. He's a little scumbag. It's funny. You know, and at the end of the game, Ashley was like, "Hey, maybe you get a little time off." And they're like, "No, she can't do that." I'm like, are you kidding? This beautiful man in a perfect jacket just saved her life. She's a little horn dog. She wants at it. I get it.
Leon,
like, why do they take all the fun little anything out of these games? Like, oh, who was offended that Ashley hit on Leon at the end of Resident Evil 4?
As you said before, Vito, it's a business. They're looking at the long game. So as easy as you're enjoying it, just as far somebody can be offended by it. So obviously, the climate that we're living in, a lot of things are not as looked on as fondly as they were back in the 90s and the early 2000s. So
that's why I gotta be honest. Yeah, if I'm looking for a good story, I honestly don't look at video games because they are such mass market entertainment these days. That it doesn't seem like very many people are willing to take risks. Kojima will take a risk. Death Stranding is the weirdest goddamn game I ever played in my life, and I love it. But for the most part, it seems like the games we're getting are like, take a Hollywood movie that people are like, and make kind of a video game version of it. I'm not seeing a lot of and even when you get creativity like Assassin's Creed with the Animus or whatever, they get rid of all of it, and now they're not going to do the Animus anymore. Oh my god, I have to buy a Nintendo Switch game right now, guys. It just went on sale. What are you going to buy? I don't even remember. I set the alarm and now I can't remember what it is.
But I'm actually happy that they're doing all this remake because, like Ash say, it could serve the video game and make it cheaper. Like Klonoa is super expensive. Now you can buy it at Grandias. And some games are getting really expensive.
Sorry,
but we don't have the money. We don't have the money that we don't got the money that Vito had to throw on collections.
I was just gonna say, Ash's game room got me so jealous right now. I ain't even gonna lie.
Oh yeah, she's stunning on all of us. Hella hard right now.
I gotta get my game up real top.
Oh man, but yeah, dude. So like, we are coming up at like 2 hours. I am so elated on like the extent of conversation that we had on all the topics that we got to cover, and I don't want to keep y'all from enjoying your lovely weekend, especially Ash enjoying your birthday weekend. So I want to go around the horn to have everyone, you know, give their outros, where to find y'all at, and what you'll be working on. So yeah, Ash, take the lead.
Sure. So my name is AshSaidHi. I play games on Twitch. I play lots of retro games, lots of Nintendo games. I play Amiga, Sega. I usually do Morrowind Mondays, all kinds of stuff, arcade games. And you can find me everywhere at AshSaidHi. That's Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. And everywhere I am talking about video games because I love video games. I've been working on a series where I'm touching on video game soundtracks and sharing classic video game soundtracks that people might not have heard of. Or maybe they're mainstream and you just forgot about them. So that's what I've been working on a lot lately. And it's been really fun. So, yeah.
I'm so glad I got to introduce my audience to you and your lovely content. Granted, I have only been familiar with your content thanks to Megadan29 on YouTube. So I found you on YouTube, and then I was like, oh, you're popping off on Twitch. Let me like come over there too. So I'm so juiced that I got to meet you today and talk with you for the first time. You are just like amazing. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I want to go ahead and hand it over to Q, Game Boy Colored. Where can we find you at? What are you going to be working on? And all that jazz.
First, I want to start by saying I'm just blessed to be here with you guys. It's so great to talk to other intelligent nerds about stuff I like to talk about. So awesome. But it's your boy Q, aka Game Boy Color. You can find me on YouTube at Geeked Up Media on YouTube. You can find me on TikTok, Real Game Boy Colored. Yes, I'm on Twitter as well as the Cuniverse at the Cuniverse. And I also have 2 podcasts on YouTube you should tune in to. One is Keep It G, where we talk about everything geeky, gaming, and nerdy, because every week we keep our eyes and ears to the streets for everything geek. And Into the Cuniverse, where we stay on our P's and Q's, GQ smooth, and we always know what to do. Also, I just want to say, y'all guys are awesome. It's so amazing to see all y'all faces, man. I want to do this again. I'm so hyped, man. So lit.
This was absolutely lit. I couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you so much, Q, for your time this lovely afternoon. And I'm gonna go zoop over to Vito. Where can we find you at, and what are you gonna be working on this week, guy?
I'll be under the bridge selling ice cream cones this Sunday. No. Go to youtube.com/Vito, and I have a review of Black Adam that I will hopefully be posting within the next couple hours.
Yes.
And
oh my God.
also, Darius Burst for the Nintendo Switch just went on sale at Strictly Limited Games, so buy a I think that's going to sell out.
Darius is that shooter game, right?
Burst.
Yeah, the
Awesome. Yeah, congrats on the latest addition to your collection for sure. And Saggy,
Switch collector.
Yes.
Oh,
I
sorry,
am.
my internet went out.
Oh no, you're
Okay.
good. Yeah, Saggy, where can we find you, and what are you going to be working on pretty soon over on your in your neck of the woods?
I mean, everybody kind of, for the most part, on your channel that are watching knows who I am. Saggy Melonz with a Z, not an S. For the love of God, please don't make the mistake. But yeah, y'all know I'm a drama mama, and that's what I do, and that's what I'm about for some reason. And I mean, I don't have anything new coming up. It's always just it's whatever is interesting. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Thank you for having me. I loved it. I loved the new panelists and everything. It's great. It was a great time.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. And last but not least, my awesome co-host, Ken Tintino, Richard Complex. Where can we find you at, and what are you going to be working on?
You can always find me on Retro Complex. Like always, I'm review retro games, new games, the weird and the odd. Right now, I'm kind of working on I'm supposed to be working on a Pokemon game. There's a Persona game at the same time, really weird game. And yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, I'm going to thank you everyone in the chat. Thank you to folks who stuck around for the entire time, like Shinakage, Yield Nerdcast, Show, Slonko Bomb, Mike, Keely. Thank y'all for, even if you popped in for just a little bit, I do appreciate all of the engagement y'all had in the chat and all the contribution that you had to the discussion points as well. I am so grateful for everyone who tuned in. Please be sure to check out the links to our lovely panelists in the description on YouTube, as well as there's links to their socials too, so be sure to follow and subscribe there. And yeah, I'll go ahead and play the outro. Thank y'all again so much for tuning in, and we will catch y'all later. All right, take care. Bye.